everybody, and welcome to the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. We're coming rain, shine, or anything between. We're here to deliver to you Kansas State sporting news to you so well. I'm Nate Edwards, right alongside
Connor Bountazor.
And welcome to kind of weekly recap. It's weird. We're in that weird stage of where you're gearing up for seasons, but football's right around the corner, and also it is extremely hot out. So I do mean extremely hot, and you don't come to this for a weather report, but oh my God. But this week we have two women's basketball commits to talk about, and then talk a little bit about Collin Klein's press conference, talking about this upcoming football season. But for a while, the women's Catsketball team was sitting at 10 people on the roster, which I thought was a little light, even though I didn't figure they were going to fill the full 13. I thought, maybe just for depth purposes, you'd get to 11, 12. But having two international pieces coming in have really rectified that. And both of these new commits are international pieces. The first of which is Christina Osazua from the great country of Italy, flexing the Italian heritage that I wear so proudly, despite my last name being English. Long story short, it was Smith before my mother got married. They anglicized their name. No one asked. Anyway, what do you have about Osazua?
Now, she is a big-time addition, I think. We were, I think, kind of missing a true difference maker. I think we needed a kind of one more starter level player, I think, to go from being a team that I think was probably going to be about a bubble team to being, I'd say, like a right side of the bubble team if things click. Because I think this was an excellent pickup. I think may have been the best player available, was probably one of the best international pickups this entire offseason for women's basketball. She averaged, Christina did, at the FIBA U20 Women's Eurobasket, 14 points per game in 2025, and paired 7.9 rebounds with that as well. So she also, at one point against the Netherlands, she had a 31-point performance in that tournament too. She played in the top-level Italian professional league as well. She played in 14 games. And then averaged 4.4 points and 2.8 rebounds in this club season that's been going on. So this is a really excellent pickup. There are not a lot of ways around it. She's almost certainly going to be a starter when she gets to campus. And I think that she's going to be someone that can contend for being an all-conference type of player if she hits her stride.
Yeah, and also fun facts from her roster page. She is the first K-State Wildcat to wear number 7 in basketball. I think there were a few other notable number 7s across K-State history. And she is also the first player from Italy, who I believe she would now be second in the basketball sphere for both sides, because I believe Dorian Bucca was the first Italian to play on the men's side, even though I think technically he's
Romanian, technically.
Romanian Italian. He probably lived most of his life in Italy, but is ethnically Romanian. We count those. But I also really like this pickup, because the main concern that I had with this team was going to be, having a true quote unquote post player. Post play is very different in women's basketball than it is for men's basketball. It's not better, it's not worse, it's different. And that's what I will say, because the only true post player, well, I guess we had two. We had Ivana Sekic and then Ramaya White. Ramaya White showed a few flashes towards the back end of last year, but Sekic played, if I remember correctly. I don't remember much about her. So we just needed a little more size on this team, especially, and these two, I'm perfectly fine with these two adds to add more size to the team just more generally.
Yeah. Shekic did play last year. She got here at in December, and she played in the 13 games. But she was mostly a reserve, and but did flash. But yeah, though I'm very happy to see that a big addition, someone like Osazua. This is going to be a much larger team than we've had since Yoko Lee graduated, and like I'm happy. I'm very happy about that. Osazua also, you know, obviously, like we can't really count on it, but she is listed as a freshman in terms of eligibility. But she is someone that might break out early, and so she'll be a little expensive to keep around. But yeah, and I think you were kind of starting to get into the another edition that we had. I have a pronunciation guide pulled up for her name. She is Joanna Tabaku. Do not ask me where the B is in her last name because there isn't one. But I
Don't ask me where the J is in her first. I know TZ in some European languages.
Yeah, it's like more. It's like a J more than a J. I think is like Joanna. I think.
Yeah.
But yes, so definitely the most difficult name to pronounce. I think on this year's team as Joanna Tabaku. Mainly because that's going to be so hard to remember. There's a B that just doesn't exist in the middle of her last name. But she's a really great ad in her own right. She also plays over in Europe. She for a Greek team or for the Greek team at U20 Eurobasket Division B, averaged 6 points a game and 7.3 rebounds per game this past season. So definitely interesting to see that. And then if you look at her highlights, she actually is a little more mobile than you would expect for a 6'5" center. She's able to get the ball further out from the basket and then not just back to the basket, dribble down, but she also was able to dribble across the paint and get to the other side of the basket and then just move pretty fluidly. So I was happy to see that. And she's someone that I think will almost certainly play this year. She may not be, an elite asset this year, especially because she was playing in Division B of Eurobasket as opposed to the normal division like Osazua was. But she's still going to be a huge asset, and it also gives us another 6'5" player to go with Ramaya White. And as we found, having a player that tall, you really do just kind of have to have one. Like we tried it last year and it had some success at times to go small and go fast. But ultimately, like a team that just has a dominant post player, they can just keep going back and back and back. And it really just wears the team down if you don't have enough competent bodies on the inside. And so this is a big ad for that as well.
That was our offensive strategy with Ayoko Lee. I mean, that was pretty much book one of the Ayoko Lee experience. And even then, Serena Sundell wasn't short, and she played really well with her back to the basket as a guard. So this is sort of a return to old form for a midi team where you do have those taller post players. The good news is that they have the post players are tall and have hand-eye coordination and don't look like a baby giraffe. I don't know who I could possibly be referring to, but they have body coordination, which is good. And I think that you were spot on in saying that this is a team that now is probably on the right side of the bubble if things go as they should on paper. And now paper is a flimsy thing that destroys itself in water. So who knows? But I also want to point out, I'm just looking at the roster, and I wanted to point out two things. Firstly, good God, there are a lot of Europeans on this roster. There's a lineup where we have 5 players from 5 different countries on the floor, because you could have Nastia Claessens, who's from Belgium, Gina Garcia, who's from Spain, Christina Osazua from Italy. Then you could have Tia Clant from France, and then you could have an entire lineup of just Europeans, because you could have someone from Greece or Slovenia. I just think it's interesting. But the other thing is, this team has weirdly benefited a lot from the 5-for-5 ruling, and this thought just struck me now, because the people who got extra eligibility would be Nastia Claessens, Taryn Sides. Well, everyone got an extra year of eligibility. This isn't their last year. Nastia Claessens and Taryn Sides both getting that extra year, I think quietly might be really important for next year's team. Now, we still have this year to worry about, so let's not put the cart before the horse here. But those are just 2 observations I had. What are your thoughts on the Eurocats, as well as the benefits of the 5-for-5 for this team?
5-for-5 definitely that could really help if Taryn and Nasha stick around, which I hope they do, because they're both really great players to have, and I like having the roster kind of stay continuous for as long as it can. Now, on the European flavor of this roster, there's more international players on this team than there are American players, which is not like an unheard of thing at all in basketball. Especially, you see a lot of that in basketball, and also a few other non-revenue sports as well. Like tennis is a big one, at least for K-State it is.
Yeah.
But
so many Japanese people come to K-State to play tennis.
We've had a couple Mongolians too,
yep.
Which has been interesting. But yeah, a lot of international players on this team, and I think it's interesting to see us go that way. I think probably a big part of it is I'd imagine that women's college basketball right now, with donor help, is probably, I would say, I mean, I have nothing to back this up, but I would guess, since we're able to pull so many, we're probably paying at least market rate, and probably better for these players. And for women's basketball, it's still very, very, very hard to get generational wealth levels of money from it. So there actually is a lot of value still probably for the degree side of it too. It's not as big, I think, as the NIL side of things, but it's at least something to consider as a useful lure to bring people across the Atlantic. But I don't know, I'm very curious to see how it translates this year, because a lot of these international players, they're listed as freshmen eligibility wise. I don't know if that's us just doing a placeholder until we get a determination from the NCAA, because I think they do that on an individual basis. But I'm really curious to see who ends up where with eligibility. The only thing I'll say other than that on the roster is I do think that we're a little light on guards right now. I mean,
It's a crazy problem to have in the midi era.
Yeah, right now, we have Taryn Sides, Gina Garcia, and then Tia Cleant as I think your main guards here. I mean, and Taryn, we know who she is and what she can do, and we saw that with Gina as well, and I think she can take the next step. But they're listing Brandy Harrod as a guard, and I think that she is more of a wing, I think, than a guard, just because she really just doesn't have the shooting ability from the outside. But I guess there's some distinction there that they're making that works for them. But this team is a little bit light on guard play, but as long as we have enough players that are able to take 3-pointers with consistency, I'm hoping Shia Ende. I'm not sure about her range, but I hope that's something she can add. And then, other than that, it's going to be Taryn, Nastia, and then Taya Cleant, the French transfer from Penn State. So we'll have to hope that maybe Michaela Parks is able to add something there. Osazuwa, I didn't see her take a lot of long-range shots in her highlight tape. So that's something I'm keeping my eye on at this point because I'm a little bit worried about our ability to shoot from deep. But again, we also don't know the full extent of how good some of these players are at shooting from the outside. And then also we have a true freshman in Sage Henry. I guess at this point, there's literally zero reason to not play freshmen at all. So maybe that's somebody that can help us there too.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they're gambling on the true freshman. That came off as much more disrespectful than I intended it to. I don't think that they're in a position where they have to play Sage Henry, but they can. Is what is the polite way of saying it. In other words, she might get minutes similar to early season or early career Taryn, where she gets some minutes, she gets her run, shows flashes, but isn't ready to be a lead guard, and that's fine because she's a freshman. There are very few people that are ready to be a lead guard as a freshman. I would argue Gina Garcia was one of them, but then again, you and I are perhaps some of the biggest Gina Garcia truthers on the internet. So
yeah, we're definitely a little biased there. She definitely took her bumps and bruises, but I still think by and large for a true freshman point guard getting extended minutes that wasn't like a generationally heralded recruit, I think she played really well.
Speaking, she did not take as many bumps and bruises as Serena. Serena would just get shot every game.
That's true. She was just a magnet for danger. I don't know what it was.
I don't know either. And she'd catch elbows almost every game.
I don't know what it was with Serena Sindel, but she was just an unlucky player when it came to getting very minor injuries and stingers and stuff. She never had anything serious. It was just always annoying stuff that really hurts for a couple minutes and then you're fine.
It's a tough world out there, really. Maybe that's a conversation we have someday. Is who do we think is the greatest K-State women's basketball player of all time? That might be worth an episode. I'll admit I was about to use Gen Alpha lingo. I don't think I'm qualified for that anymore. I'm balding. Granted, I've been balding since I was 16, but it's an evil world out there. But I am kind of a newer addition to following K-State women's basketball. I really only did it when I started going to K-State. I followed basketball and football a lot more, just because I really didn't start getting into lore. I really didn't start getting into any sports other than baseball until I was 14 or 15 years old, which is funny given the way I am now. Anyway, what are some old names that would come up in that conversation, Connor?
I mean the big ones. I think that you're gonna, Kendra Wecker and Nicole Oldie, I think, are probably the two biggest, from the early 2000s. Some of those teams were really excellent, and they just couldn't quite get it going in the postseason. But otherwise, they were really great. But beyond that, Priscilla Gary, I know, is a really highly thought of player from pretty early in the the women's basketball program's time. Shaylee Lenning was one of the first that I remember. She came like right after Oldie and Wecker. And then, of course, Ayoka Lee is going to be up there too. And Serena Sundell, I think, played her way into the conversation over her last couple of seasons. And I think she probably didn't have the horses to get to GOAT status, but I think that she did enough, I think, to get her jersey in the rafters, I think. So, but then other than that, I mean, there's some other like Hall of like very, very good players. Like Peyton Williams, I think, is like the highlight there. And I think she's someone that could have, in either volleyball or women's basketball, like been in GOAT conversations if she had only played one of those sports, which makes it all the more impressive that she is like Hall of very good in both of those sports. So
that's absurd. It's like Jackie Robinson or Deion Sanders both being like great at Jackie Robinson in 3 sports, Deion in 2. Actually, did Deion run track? He may have at one point. Anyway, now we're way off base. Anyway, Collin Klein's press conference. Maybe we should have spent more time just talking in circles because he didn't say a lot. It was a lot of coach speak, which, I mean, is somewhat to be expected. There are a few things to glean from the presser. And of course, the most important to you and I, Connor, is our king, our liege, JoJo Scott, seems to be in the driver's seat for starting nickel right now, which is not where I had him. I had him more as an outside corner. I don't care where he plays. I just want to see him play.
Yeah, no, I was really surprised to hear that it's going to be either him or MJ Graham, and it sounds like that JoJo might even have the inside track there. That's one area this offseason where it feels like we've had the most surprises. Has been the shuffling between corner, safety, and nickel. Like a lot of our new players are not ending up exactly where we thought they were going to. And I found that really interesting. Jasam Pavard, it's sounding like he's going to be a safety as opposed to a nickel. Then, JoJo Scott, I had him in a competition for getting onto the 2 line as a corner, but that very well might be kind of like Darian Whitaker, where we're seeing Darian Whitaker kind of thrown around the conversation as an edge rusher because he's that good. Maybe I think that might be the same thing happening with JoJo Scott, just maybe not as publicly, or at least it hasn't been presented in that context where he's been good enough. But right now we're really log jammed with, I shouldn't say really log jammed, but like there's a surefire number 1 in Zayshawn Rich, and then Donovan McIntosh and apparently Caleb Patterson are like going to be the 2, the number 2. One of them will be the number 2 corner. And so after that, there's like a lot of other young guys there. But nickel, it's really been, it sounds like just JoJo Scott and MJ Graham because Jason Pavard is going to be playing a true safety role, whether it be free or strong. So that might be it. And maybe get your best guys on the field if you can find a position that works for them, type of thing.
Yeah, and I also want to give you a big shout out and big ups for being, to my knowledge, the first person that even threw out the idea of Darian Whitaker as defensive end, because you looked at his Twitter bio, and if I remember correctly, you mentioned the idea of him playing as like a defensive end / hybrid player, then looked at his Twitter bio and it's like, well, it says defensive end.
That is how I presented it in the episode because, okay. But the opposite is what actually happened. I had seen that previously, and I was like, okay, I'm going to bring that up. So, okay. So yeah, I think we can read between the lines a bit on Whitaker, but I think it's like he's just going to be like defensive athlete, basically, is kind of what it seems like Darian Whitaker is going to do. Which was kind of what we said Toby was going to be for a while. So I've seen this one before. Yeah, which, I'm willing to try it with Darian Whitaker. I mean, we'll see how that goes. especially because I think seeing him screaming off the edge with Wendell Gregory, and then Jordan Allen, new and improved Jordan Allen, like sliding in, like because apparently he's cross training. It's like sliding Jordan Allen and have him play like three tech and like a jet rush, and then put Elijah Hill just like in a wide nine, like out in outer space, and just have him just run around the left tackle or something. Like so, there's some intriguing like obvious pass situation defensive fronts you can put together.
I'm curious if we see, we won't, but it'd be very funny if we just come up with like the overload package where you have load fronts where you have 3 people on one side. Now we put in 4 people on one side and just leaving like where we'll kick out one of the like a 3 tech out to a defensive end and just pray that they don't run that way.
Now what we need is a 3 overload, and we kick like a nose tackle, like let's say Austin Ramsey, we put him out in a wide 9 on the opposite side, and then we run like the world's like longest curl, and just like crazy block down on the 3 side, and Ramsey is just sprinting around the other side. So if we can cover everybody for like at least 12 seconds, like it's a guaranteed sack. So
it's a coverage sack, boys. Every DB would hit every celebration that's ever been conceived, and some that haven't, if that happened.
And it would be a rare, deserved moment for defensive back celebrations. Like, so I'd be here. I mean, to be fair, we did see a successful Uso Sayamalo twist last season against Texas Tech.
That's one of 2 things I remember from that game. I kind of memory hold the rest of it.
Yeah, Uso got that kind of twist, and Austin Romaine had like his best game of the season, and then was never seen again.
It's a shame he like went to space. Anyway, you mentioned the linebackers. The 4 deep that was mentioned in the presser was Mekhi Mason. That's not a surprise. Gabe Powers, which was a little bit of a surprise. Rex Van Wyn, I believe Darian Whitaker was also mentioned in the linebacking rotation. Poor Asa Newsom. poor Asa Newsom.
That's really like the takeaway from that, I think. I wasn't surprised Gabe Powers was mentioned. I was a little surprised, like you were, that he played his way ahead of Rex Van Wyn. Mainly because Rex Van Wyn was a team captain. So I was thinking, okay, maybe he's like kind of turned the corner there. But I think maybe the captains are more just like a like respect for the guys that have been here for a while thing, as opposed to like indicative of, or I should say dispositive of them being a starter. But if Gabe Powers can be a starter level linebacker, not just a guy that has to start, like I'd be really pleased with that, because like we took 2 Ohio State transfers and neither of them, I mean, to be fair, one for a completely valid reason, like neither of them have delivered quite yet. So we'll see how things go. But I imagine the weak linebacker is probably going to rotate a decent amount anyways. So we'll see how that goes.
You mentioned the other Ohio State transfer, and that's George Fitzpatrick. Apparently, he still has some medical milestones to clear, which at this point, if he plays, great, it's house money. If he doesn't, that's kind of where I'm at. I think Gus Hawkins is ready. He's probably the favorite to play right tackle, but they're dealing with a lot of different combinations of offensive line right now. I have heard, and this isn't me coping, this is actually rare someone has told me something moment. I have heard that Navarro Shunky, of all people, is getting at least a chance. He's probably not going to start, but he is solidified himself pretty firmly on the 2 line. Have heard that there are a few names rotating at center, which we didn't expect. We said center left was pretty well solved, but everyone else is legitimately rotating, which offensive line, It's just about finding the best combination.
Yeah, I was a little surprised to hear that about center as well. Just thinking that Delvin Morris would probably be the guy there. The rumors have been that he's been like just a little bit banged up, which I heard that talked about, I think, on another podcast, so it isn't paywalled. But he hasn't had a serious injury or anything, just something that's held him out. So that's given other guys opportunities like other centers. I mean, that's Kyle Rockers and Dylan Villarreal. So I'm curious about how that goes. And something that I heard on the Bosco's Boys episode this week was the Keaton Jones is actually just about locked down, not fully, but like as like kind of the like he would be the starter if the season started today, right guard, which surprised me a little, mainly because I was thinking that Dylan Villarreal might still be able to be the starter there, just because I mean he played as a true freshman, like not insignificantly, and that's so rare for an offensive lineman. But Keaton Jones is a guy where if he puts it together uh, as a lineman, like he almost certainly will be an NFL guy because he has the athleticism and size to do it. I mean, he's like gigantic, like, and he's not too big to where like it's like a disadvantage at guard, but like he's just so wildly athletic and strong that he could be an excellent road grader for us. And I really hope that that competition continues at right guard because like I really want it to like I'd be totally happy with either Villarreal or Keaton Jones as our right guard.
Fun fact: I thought Keaton Jones was taller. I thought he was like 6'5" or 6'6". He's 6'3".
Really?
Which yes, he's 6'3". I'm glad I'm not the only person who thought that because I thought he'd be too tall to play guard because I thought he was like 6'6".
I thought he was 6'6" as well, and like I have just been wrong this entire time. Luckily, I haven't said it or anything. Like that would have been silly of me, but wow.
I,
So wait, he's how tall? You said? Oh yeah, he's 6'3". Oh, how about that?
so he's an inch taller than you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Manlet status for me. And standing in, I'm average in the U.S., so I can't even make short jokes. I'm just stuck in purgatory. But the other big note that immediately came to my mind, well, I guess there's two others, both on the offensive side of the ball. We'll start with the one that was more expected, and that's the wide receiver quote unquote rotation. That being four names that we could have guessed. That being Jerron Tibbs, Josh Manning, Brandon White, and Isaiah Williams. I was blanking on the name for a second. It sounds like just from what Collin Klein said is that Brandon White's going to be like a true slot guy. And then if there's a situation where we need like a true third wide receiver, that would probably be Isaiah Williams because technically all three receiver positions are different positions with different responsibilities, which is why you hear slot guy so often. But that's what it sounded like to me. I could be off base on that, but that's the core four. And then Adonis Moise, which we're not the only ones. Collin Klein pronounced it Moise too. And Larry Porter, another one of the Alleycat favorites, got to mention as well as someone who's showed flashes. But no big surprises on the top four receivers.
No, nothing crazy among those guys. The only thing is just yeah, like we'll see, I guess, how much run guys that aren't the top two get because I mean we may get to a point not only because I think that there's a lot of playable guys in the receiver room, but there's not a ton of guys that you like have to get playing time. I think like find new ways to like get guys in the game. Whereas with the tight end room, there are actually like multiple guys where like there's more than one tight end you need to be playing. I mean, obviously Garrett Oakley, like who seems to have taken some huge strides this offseason, and the same for Lincoln Cure as well, who I think we're probably going to see a ton of this year. So I wouldn't be too surprised if we see some two tight end with uh, one as an H or an N line, and then one as like a near split, uh, or maybe one as a H and one as a on the line. Like, and we'll also find use for Will Ancio as well. And then we also did go out and get a specific H back / fullback in Owen Harrington that I'd imagine we'll probably see a little bit of in some blocking situations. So there's a lot of guys in that room that are probably deserving of playing time. And the receiver room, there's guys I want to see, but I'm trying not to set the expectation for myself that we're going to see all of them.
Yeah. The last major note, to me at least, was how Klein talked about the quarterback battle. Now, that it was one of those statements where a lot of different people are going to say a lot of different things, which is the key that he said nothing. But to me, he talked the longest about Blake Barnett, had the highest review in terms of consistency, which was the word of the day, of Dylan Duff, and Jacob Knuth was also there. If I had to guess, I don't think my answers changed, and I think that was the point for who I would project to be the long-term backup, and that's Blake Barnett, just because he spent the most time talking about him and the physical tools. However, I think it's by a razor-thin margin, because the way that Collin Klein talked about Blake Barnett was it could basically be boiled down to, yeah, he can do whatever he wants, but he's going to make me really mad on a few plays.
Yeah, that's kind of how I took it as well. I'm trying to kind of parse out what to expect from Klein when it comes to his coach speak, because a lot of coaches, I think, say, I guess depending on like where they're at, sometimes they'll have a lot to say about guys that like still have a ways to go, but like have made strides, against guys that like have kind of taken over, just because they want to give motivation to guys that have a long way to go, but like the guy that's like nearly like there or has arrived, they don't want to like gas him up too much and have him like not try as hard. But yeah, you have a lot of complimentary stuff to say about Blake Barnett, and he actually talks a lot about him being able to push the ball down the field, which that's always been a critique of Blake Barnett, specifically in arm strength. So I thought that was an interesting thing that Collin Klein went out of his way to bring up about Blake. Then, yeah, I talked about Dylan Duff and his consistency as well. So, like, I mean, I'm really not sure what to expect with that depth chart. I guess I'll put myself in for a prediction of just all three guys with fours next to their names for quarterback.
Yeah, I think it's a fool's errand to try and predict it. I am going to take the victory lap on the arm strength, because I don't know where it came from. I genuinely do not know where like the noodle arm Barnett thing came from, because yeah, he didn't have like a cannon. Like, of the scholarship quarterbacks on roster, he might have like the least zip on the ball, but zip doesn't mean you can't throw the ball downfield. In fact, the opposite. Most quarterbacks at the Power 5 level or Power 4 level can throw the ball like 50 to 60 yards. It's just a matter of how quickly it gets there. And sometimes it doesn't matter. So I don't know where the narrative that Blake had a noodle arm comes from. I think maybe like one or two people said it looking at his high school highlights where, he was more of a dual threat, more of a runner, and said, nope, can't throw the ball. Huh?
Yeah, there's been a long-standing narrative on that. And, until we see him actually throw some passes in the game, which, to be fair, I think that's played a role in why it's still around as a narrative. It's because we haven't actually seen him throw it. But, like, until he does that, that narrative will probably stick around. But I'm curious if, like if we do see him like get the chance to throw some passes like in game in a meaningful situation, uh, like we're going to find out. Was that just completely blatant like coach speak, or like was it also, I guess, if it turns out he does have like a good arm and like is pushing the ball down the field and is like a good passer of the football, like then just struggled with consistency, like then we can look back and be even more angry at this past season for never throwing the counterpunch with the Blake Barnett power left or power right formation. So
Yeah, the Blake Dozer package.
yeah.
Or the Earth Blake. I think we settled on the Earth Blake package. I don't know.
I have no idea. I memory hold that, so
Yeah, maybe we'll never have to think about it again. But that was pretty much it for notable things that Collin said during the presser, unless you have anything else. And
I did have one more thing that I just thought was really interesting. He was asked about kick and punt returners, and the second guy he mentioned was Jay Harris, and I was really surprised by that.
Yeah.
He also mentioned Joe Jackson and Brandon White, and then said there's been a lot of guys that we've been trying back there. So, but Jay Harris being the second guy that came to mind, I mean, that's just the second name he was able to like pull out of the mental filing cabinet at the moment. It also may be that Jay Harris has actually been an impressive returner, which would be maybe the shock of the offseason. Just, I guess, because he has a reputation as a power back, and power backs don't have reputations as kick and punt returners. So that would be really surprising.
Yeah, I agree. I was also very surprised. I expected someone smaller. I definitely didn't expect Joe Jackson to be named, because I don't, personal bias, I don't like starters on offense being on punch or kick returns. I think that puts a little too much stress on them, and I think the risk is too high. So that's why I prefer like either slot receivers, backup running backs. I think honestly, weirdly enough, my ideal is like a safety, whether it be a starting safety or a backup safety, as like the kick returner. But that's just like a weird little thing in my brain. But I don't like the idea of a starting running back being the kick or punt returner. It bothers me.
Yeah, it's probably not my preference either, but it's also something that for a long time I was just kind of used to like starters being kick returners, because like with Bill, I mean, we had Tyler Lockett for several years, Tremaine Thompson as well, then Morgan Burns. I mean, he technically played corner and technically started at corner in the sense that he was on the field and was listed on the depth chart at corner. And then Byron Pringle was a returner. So I don't know. Like, I know that the prevailing wisdom is don't put starters, especially stars, in positions to like be at high risk of just getting absolutely leveled, which is every single return situation. But I guess Collin Klein also did attend the Bill Snyder School of Special Teams, so that's as did Stan Weber. So that may be something that we have to keep an eye on, is seeing like big name starters get like consistent reps at returner.
Yeah. I also want to point out this just came out via my promotions tab on my Gmail. Shout out promotions tab via Gmail. Nicholls State is officially sold out for the opener of the season, which that's not surprising, but probably the first podcast to mention it.
The only thing about it that is surprising to me is that I feel like it was like maybe like 2 days ago that there was a like social media post from K-State Sports saying that there were over 1,000 tickets left for Nicholls. So like they moved those pretty quick then, and that's what was going on. So I'm not surprised that it ultimately happened. It just happened much faster than I thought it would.
Yeah. But that pretty much wraps up everything that we have for this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. So thank you all so much for listening. If you want to follow or contact the show, you can follow us just about anywhere at Aggieville Alleycats. And if you want to email us, we're aggievillealleycats@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on a more personal note, I'm at ACEdward00.
I am at Connor Bouncor, capital C, capital B.
And if you want to support the show financially, please be sure to check out the official Aggieville Alleycats merch store. Link found in our podcast and Twitter bios. But most importantly, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. For come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. Stay safe, Alleycats.